Okay, so today we're doing a deep dive on this fascinating figure in Ethiopian business,
Mhm.
Tseday Asrat. And get this, she went from fashion boutiques to building a whole coffee empire, Kaldis Coffee.
Yeah, that's not the usual career path, is it?
Totally. And the amazing part is she did all this in a country where, let's be honest, coffee's like a national obsession. And she didn't just break into the market, she redefined it.
Right. Ethiopia's coffee culture, it's so deeply rooted, really traditional for someone new to come in, especially a woman, and have this kind of impact. It's pretty extraordinary. And what's interesting is coffee wasn't her first thing. She actually started out with a fashion boutique, called it Seasonal Style at age 23. Can you believe that?
Wow, 23. That's starting young. But I did hear her first couple businesses, like Seasonal Style, didn't quite go as planned.
Yeah, that's right. Both of those ended up closing down, actually. It was because of all the urban expansion happening in Addis Ababa. It's a common problem, really, for businesses in cities that are growing that fast. But, it says a lot about today that those early setbacks didn't stop her.
So what did she do? I mean, that kind of thing could make someone give up.
Oh, it was definitely not the end. She took it as a learning experience, which honestly, that's a pattern you see throughout her career. Being resilient like that and knowing how to adapt, it became crucial to her success later on.
That's really something. Okay, so she bounces back from this, and then what? Jumps right into coffee.
Not quite yet. She actually tried a bunch of different things, shows you how much of an entrepreneur she is. Like, she started Lori Agro Industry, which we'll get into later, but also she went for the restaurant world too, Gusto Restaurants, and even co-owns one in Dubai called Gersha.
Wow, that's like a whole range of businesses. She seemed to
Mm-hmm.
just spot an opportunity and go for it.
Yeah.
But let's talk about Kaldis Coffee, because that's where things really blew up, right? 33 locations and still growing. That's huge. What was her strategy there? How'd she change the game for coffee in Addis Ababa?
It's funny you should say change the game because before Kaldis, the coffee scene in Addis Ababa, while it was lively and all, it didn't have that, well, how do I put it, that level of refinement, especially when it came to like specialty coffee. Today saw this gap, this need for truly high quality coffee and service to match, and she went for it.
So she wasn't just joining the coffee scene, she was elevating it.
Exactly. And you know what? One of her biggest challenges was finding employees who had the skills to make this vision of Kaldis a reality. The people already working in the industry, they weren't necessarily trained to meet those high standards she had.
So how'd she solve that? I mean, finding good employees, that's a universal struggle for businesses.
Yeah.
What did she do differently?
So she took the bull by the horns and decided to create Kaldis Coffee's own training center. Can you believe that?
Wow, now that's proactive. That must have been a pretty big investment for her.
It was, but it was a strategic one, right? By putting resources into training her employees, she wasn't just guaranteeing the quality of her brand, she was helping build a more skilled workforce in Ethiopia as a whole. That kind of move, it really impacted the entire industry.
That's impressive. Talk about a win-win. But even with a top-notch team, running a business, especially in the coffee world, has got to come with its share of challenges. What were some of the things Tede had to overcome as Kaldis Coffee grew?
Well, and this might surprise you, but one of the biggest hurdles was getting a hold of high quality coffee beans consistently. You see, even in a country that's practically synonymous with coffee, keeping up with the standards Tseday set for Kaldis, it wasn't a walk in the park.
Seriously. I mean, you'd figure in Ethiopia, good coffee beans wouldn't be an issue.
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But it turns out that when you're talking about that level of quality and in the quantity she needed, well, it gets tricky. So Tseday, never one to shy away from a challenge, she made a pretty bold move.
Okay, what'd she do? You got to tell me.
She decided to go vertically integrate her business, I mean. Basically, taking control of the entire supply chain. Started roasting and packaging her own beans. That way she could make sure every single cup of Kaldis coffee lived up to her vision.
Wow. She really said, if you want something done right, incredible. But I'm guessing that wasn't the only bump in the road, was it?
You know it. Another big one was the dairy supply and how reliable it was. Remember, dairy is a huge part of Ethiopian coffee culture, right?
Yeah.
Well, if the quality or the supply wasn't consistent enough, it could really mess with the quality of her products.
So what'd she do? Start her own dairy farm on top of everything else.
In a way, yeah. Remember Lori Agro Industry? The company she founded before Kaldis really took off. Well, she had the foresight to develop it specifically to deal with this issue. It wasn't just about having enough dairy for Kaldis, but also about potentially being able to support other businesses in the future.
So she's like 10 steps ahead.
Yeah.
It's really inspiring how she turned these challenges into opportunities. Instead of holding her back, they pushed her to be even more innovative and build a stronger business.
Exactly. That proactive mindset, the willingness to take risks and think outside the box, that's pure Tseday. It's a big part of what makes her such a remarkable entrepreneur. But here's the thing, it goes beyond just building a successful business for her.
Right. You mentioned before that it's not just about the bottom line for her. So how does Tseday bring that social responsibility aspect into her work? I know she's got her hands in a lot of initiatives.
Oh, absolutely. Giving back to her community, empowering other people, especially women, that's huge for her. And it's not just some afterthought, not corporate social responsibility as an afterthought. For Tseday, it's woven right into how she does business. It's part of her core philosophy.
So less about writing a check at the end of the year, more about making a real impact through the way she runs her business. Can you give us a few concrete examples?
For sure. Take her work with women farmers, for example. This ties right back into Lori agro industry. By providing training and the resources they need, she isn't just creating a reliable source of top-quality dairy, she's also giving those women the tools to succeed as entrepreneurs themselves.
Now, that's what I'm talking about. Empowering women, especially in a field like agriculture, which has traditionally been male-dominated, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's about creating a ripple effect, you know, positive change leading to more positive change.
Precisely. And it doesn't stop there. She's super involved in supporting the Ethiopian Cancer Association, works with the Type 2 Diabetes Parents Group, and is really passionate about making sure underprivileged students get the educational support they need.
It's incredible how she manages it all. Building a thriving business while being so committed to giving back, it's remarkable.
You can tell that for Tseday, those two things aren't separate at all. They're completely intertwined. She sees business as this powerful way to create real positive social change.
So what's the takeaway for other business leaders? What can they learn from Tseday?
I think what's really powerful about Tseday's story is this holistic approach. It's not just about the profits. It's about understanding how business and society, they're all connected. When you invest in your community, you're really investing in your own success in the long run.
She's definitely walking the walk, showing that businesses can be a force for good. So looking back at everything, from those early setbacks with her boutiques to building this coffee empire and making such a difference in her community, what's the biggest takeaway for you?
I'd say it's that resilience, that knack for taking challenges and adapting. Every obstacle Tseday faced, she met it head on, turned it into something positive. Whether it was starting that training center or taking control of her supply chain.
Yeah, it's like she could turn those challenges into fuel.
Yeah.
Use them to push herself even further.
Exactly.
Mm.
And we can't forget her commitment to quality. Even when it was tough to get the best beans or dairy, she never backed down from her vision. You can see that dedication to quality in everything she does.
Absolutely. It's clear she's got this strong vision, not just for her businesses, but for how she wants to impact her community. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's one final thought you'd want to leave our listeners with? Something for them to chew on.
Well, we've seen how Tseday's drive, that entrepreneurial spirit, combined with her commitment to social good, it's created this ripple effect of positive change in Ethiopia. So the question for everyone listening is, what kind of positive change can you create in your own world? It doesn't have to be huge. Even small actions can make a big difference.
Love that. Well said. That's it for this deep dive on Tseday Asrat. Be sure to join us next time as we explore another fascinating story of entrepreneurship and impact.